This is the iPhone 11 Pro Max, and this is the iPhone 11 Pro. Both of these phones were released in September of 2019, and they were both pretty popular iPhones. But it's now 2023 going into 2024. Are these phones still worth buying though? So, for the past couple of months, I have been using this iPhone 11 Pro Max on the side alongside my iPhone 15 Pro. And I also have this pretty much brand new iPhone 11 Pro. And I've got a pretty good experience on how these phones are in 2023. So, the 11 Pro Max is what I have more experience with now, although back in 2020, I actually mained an iPhone 11 Pro. When these phones came out, they were great. I had no problems with them. Now that these phones have dropped a lot in price, I think that they are almost worth buying again. So this is the 11 Pro Max. It's a pretty nice phone. It has a good amount of speed, but it's not as if it's the fastest phone in the market. I still notice that this phone is kind of outdated. I can pretty much on the daily basis, whenever I use this phone, know that it's slower than my 15 Pro, but that's pretty obvious because this is a 4-year-old phone at this point. I have been running the Cricket trial SIM card for a while on this, and speeds are actually not bad. 5G is nice to have, but it doesn't make a world's difference like carrier companies want people to believe. And battery life on this phone is surprisingly amazing. This phone is at 97% battery health, and the 11 Pro is at 99%. This phone just never dies. I've actually been able to get multiple days out of this phone without even charging it. Since I don't use this phone very often, it does tend to stay above 80% charge, and that is very impressive. Whenever I do use this phone for long periods of time, whether that's whenever my 15 Pro is unavailable for whatever reason, or just whenever I'm charging my 15 Pro and I want to use this for the time being, this thing's battery holds up 100%. Now, one note about this. This phone is on iOS 15. On iOS 16, they did take a hit, but it's not like the battery is unusable on 16. When I used my 11 Pro as a backup phone, the battery was fine. It didn't last as long as the Pro Max, but it did last a good bit of time. The 11 Pro Max was the end of an era for the Max iPhones. This was the last iPhone to have that nice 6.4 or 6.5 inch display size. These are some of the best size iPhones in my opinion. I really like the new 6.1 inch display on the 13, 14, 15 Pro. These phones just had such a nice display size. This is the perfect size for one-handed use, and the Pro Max is pretty much the biggest phone that I could comfortably one-hand use, and I really like the display size of these, especially the Pro. This is a really nice display. And the displays are good. They still hold up. It's an OLED 60Hz refresh rate, so it's pretty much just normal. Also, it does have Face ID, and it has the original notch, which a lot of people still like. I prefer the Dynamic Island, but of course, I'm not going to be able to get everything from this decently priced of a phone, because these phones go for $400, $450 in good condition. I've seen these as low as $300 even, and I was working on a video back in March that ended up getting scrapped where I pretty much said, buy these over any iPhone SE 3, and that still is the case, because I would rather use this over an SE 3 any day of the week. And I have a couple points to prove there. Cameras on these phones are going to be miles better. Triple camera setup. These do show their age. I will try and throw up a couple examples on the screen. But they do show their age, but they're still good. This has such a better display than the SEs. It's OLED, it has Face ID, the gesture system. It's just so much better. It's not even close. The battery life on these is going to last way longer than the SEs, and that's really a big thing for a lot of people. Personally, I've been using the Max more than the Pro lately, just because I kind of do enjoy having that bigger display on this form factor of a phone. Since I'm not really carrying it around everywhere with me, I kind of like using this around the house. But if I was taking this phone everywhere, I would use the Pro. It's just such a small form factor. And even compared to the iPhone minis, which I used to use as my main phone, the Pro is just such a good size. Here's my old 13 mini for comparison. To the question, should these be purchased in 2023, going into 24? I think with the right circumstances, yes. They still have some life left in them. They're not as good as they used to be, but I would still argue these are a better value than the SEs. With that said, I would recommend looking at the newer iPhones, because these phones will get outdated. The SE is going to get outdated. The SE is running the A15. The 15 Pro has the A17. So the SE is going to be about 2 years newer of a chip than these phones, and these phones are 4 years out of date. I'd say this phone still has another year, maybe 2.5, comfortably, before they start getting really slow and outdated to use. But for now, they're a pretty good phone. I would recommend it to people who are looking for the SE because I think these are better than the SEs. Comment down below, tell me that I'm wrong if you want to, but that's just my thoughts. Maybe I'll make a full video on why I think this phone is better than the SE. But with all that said, thank you for watching. Hopefully this video is helpful or enjoyable in some way. Goodbye.